This conference will now be recorded.
Hey everyone, Dan Holman with the Wealthy Retailer and Canadian Retail Solutions. Thanks very much for joining me on our COVID-19 reopening strategy. I'm just going to give us one more minute. It looks like we're just waiting on for two more stores to connect. There's one, and we're just waiting on one more of your partner stores here, and we'll be ready to go. And here they come. We're just going to let them get connected to audio. You'll see that everyone was placed on mute. I'm going to unmute, and if you have questions, actually, maybe I'm going to leave everyone muted. I'm just going to click mute all. I'm going to leave everyone muted. And then if you have any questions, we can throw those questions in that chat box. You'll see there's a little message symbol on the right-hand side of your screen in your GoToMeeting window. You can throw a question in there. So thanks for joining me. I've been asked to sort of guide this or lead this quick webinar. We're going to look to maybe get done in 20, 25 minutes and then leave some room for questioning. I know we've only got about a 30-minute slot with you today. So again, my name is Dan Holman. I'm the CEO of Canadian Retail Solutions, our Director of Planning at Canadian Retail Solutions. I'm also the founder of The Wealthy Retailer. And The Wealthy Retailer is really how we're engaged with you. I am a business coach focused heavily on the independent retailer. I've been doing this for about 25 years, or I've been in retail for a little more than 25 years in business development and new ventures and expansion and yada, yada, yada. None of that really is all important. Now, what I've been asked to share with you is sort of what my COVID-19 recovery looks like and what we've talked about, with our ownership group and what you're going to hear. So you're seeing three versions of me on the screen right now. One is absolutely in my capacity as the CEO and Director of Planning at Canadian Retail Solutions, a 25-plus year point-of-sale provider. We sell and support 5 to 7 different point-of-sale platforms for retailers across North America. That middle green guy is Dan Holman, the retail coach. That is where I spend the bulk of my time today in coaching the independent retailer in helping them, track better cash flow. And certainly today it's been, or in the last 8 weeks, been a bit of a walk me back off the ledge relationship for a lot of us. And then that third character was created a few weeks ago, and he is our bulldog. We've chosen to embody a bulldog in getting through this mess. So you're going to probably hear some version of all three of these guys through this conversation today. Again, if you have any questions, you can fire them into that chat box on the right-hand side of your screen in the GoToMeeting chat. We'll keep our eye on that. You can also send a text message if you'd prefer to 587-784-3404. That number on the screen again, 587-784-3404. Write it down, throw it in your phone. If you ever have a question, if you need anything, just shoot me a text. And of course, you're always welcome to old school, email me, dan@thewealthyretailer.com. Let's get rolling here. And so, what do we know? In this challenge, or in this day and age, we know that there is now no end. There is no definitive end to the COVID-19 challenge. This problem is going to persist. It is going to go on. We're going to spend the next 3 to 6 months trying to recover from the last 3, and then the 3 to 6 after that will be spent trying to protect ourselves from a reoccurrence. So there is no end to that in sight. We need to continuously adapt your business model, in 90 to 120 day chunks or little snapshots. What will we do for the next 90 days? We've spent a lot of time, historically planning out, 12 to 24 months of business. And even in some of the ways y'all have been buying, we've been buying out 8, 10, 12, 16 months out. That's over. We're done with that right at this moment. We're going to look at what do we do for the next 3 to 4 months to find success. What else do we know? Well, we know she's changed her shopping habits. Many of you have recognized a steady incline or increase in your online sales. We know her shopping habits have now changed with us. We've forced her to shop with us differently than she has in the past. And, the bulldog in me says you need to get your omni-channel shit together so that we can continue to engage her where she wants to shop with us. The other thing that's maybe a bit on the bulldog side is really this point of recognition. We know the herd is being called, has been called, is being called. Called in the animalistic world. We're killing off the weak here, and in today's survival model, you need to stand out. And standing out in today's crowd may be just as easy as standing up in front of her. We know you need to be in front of her. Simply stand up and let her know you are still here. So what don't we know? Well, we don't know when distancing, whatever version of distancing you want to talk about, we don't know when distancing will end, if it ever does. We have no idea when and if the guidelines to our reopening will change, or as they change. We don't know from day to day what they'll be, and it's okay for us not to know. We make plans. We take action from what we do know. We don't know. We don't know how she will respond to us being open again. I said in a quick video I did a couple of days ago, 50% of the audience out there is all in favor of us being open. The other 50% is dead against us being open. They feel like we're infringing on their safety for some crazy reason. They feel like we're endangering the human species by trying to do business in our retail stores. And it's just not accurate. And we don't know how people will respond to us being open. We only know that we need to support those that are in support of us. We don't know what next season is going to bring. We have no idea what fall one or early fall or even late summer into fall or even holiday really looks like. We have no idea, which is why we're looking at planning smaller chunks of the business on an ongoing basis. And the last thing here, again, maybe a bit out of the mouth of a bulldog, we have no idea what the truth is. I saw a news image today from the New York Post, talking about the beaches, in Jacksonville, Florida. And at the same time, there was a picture, from another news blog talking about the LA beaches. They were both using the exact same image and inferring, that the beaches were overrun with people. But it's just media fear mongering. You have no idea what the truth really is. And we'll never know what the real truth is. We just don't know what we don't know, or what people won't allow us to find out. So ignore it. Find your truth source. Your source of valid information. And I'll share some sources a little later here in this presentation on where I believe truth is going to come from. So let's get to some reopening guidelines. I've got 4 or 5 slides that are going to talk a little bit about, what I think are going to be some guidelines, rubber, elastic lines drawn in the sand, easily erased, easily moved, simple guidelines that we need to follow. As head coaches in your stores, you need to practice the wealthy retailer mantra. You need to create win-win environments for yourself, for your team, and most definitely for that client that's prepared to walk through your front door. You need to demonstrate energy, high energy. You need to be pumped up. There is enough or too much downtrodden negativity in our world right now, and you need to be the voice of positive energy. That's your job. You need to be admired. When I say admired, I want people to look at you like you're a frontline worker. You are, in fact, a frontline worker in retail, and we need to be admired. You need to carry your shoulders like people are watching you. You need to be lean. We've had some help from from the fear mongering, from the virus, from the whatever, the pandemic, to lean our businesses out. And we need to maintain that level of lean, lean in presentation, lean in inventory, lean in everything we do, lean in our expense strategy. We need to be bulldog tenacious. We need to treat setbacks like anomalies, tear them up, be stubborn, keep charging forward towards our vision. And most importantly, as head coaches in your stores, you need to be happy. You need to practice happiness. Find happiness in the moment, and success will follow. So what's the checklist for your store? Really simply, what do we need to know to get our stores open? Number one, most important thing you need to know is capacity. What is your store's capacity today? You need to know what are your PPE requirements for yourself and your customers. What must we wear? We've heard all kinds of BS like wearing booties, and that's not really what we're doing in our retail stores. If that's the case, there's no point in opening the doors. People do not want to shop in that kind of a sanitized environment. Yes, we need to be clean. Yes, we need to practice good sanitation guidelines, but we are not a sterile environment. We are a tactile environment. There is a lot of touching that happens in an apparel market, in an athletic-driven store. We are touching things all the time. We hold hockey sticks in our hands. We try on sweaters. We're a tactile environment. So recognize what that PPE requirement is for your customers. Different parts of the country are coming out and saying masks are no longer advised. They're mandatory in any area where there is, a lot of population or where there's a lot of people, i.e. maybe in the malls. If they're not going to restrict traffic through the main doors. They may need to be required to wear a mask, and it wouldn't hurt you to have masks on hand. It wouldn't hurt you to have that, and to be able to say to your customer, I have a mask. Would you like one? Would you like me to wear one? Whatever it takes to make her comfortable. Recognize those sanitation guidelines in your store, practicing those good sanitation habits that you started when this whole COVID-19 challenge began, with sanitizing your door handles, your countertops, your debit machines, your contactless payment machines, keeping everything wiped down. Make sure your store is ready with a clear traffic pattern. Know this about every single customer, or 90% of the customers that walk through your door. They're going to walk in your front door and make every effort they can to turn right. Allow them to do that. Create a traffic pattern that allows them to get in, turn right, stand back from the counter, decompress, get ready to start their shopping. Create that clear pathway through your store. I don't want to see, the duct tape arrows in your store like we've seen in some stores. I want you to make it fun and creative. If you've got a designed way for people to travel, set it up that way in your floor. Maybe put some funky stuff on the floor, that says anything that delivers a jestful message, something lighthearted. If you can read this, you might be too close. I heard a colleague of mine say, if you can read the tag on my jeans, back off. But just something that's fun and light that tells people, hey, you know what? Maintain a little bit of distance, not fear mongering, not negative, but just some fun, lighthearted distance. Create that clear traffic pattern for them to be able to maneuver through your store. Create a ton of silent salespeople in your store. I've been forever a massive advocate for the lack of silent salespeople in the stores, that I want you to be able to engage her one-to-one, person-to-person. I want you to be able to talk to her. Well, that opportunity, I think, needs to be stayed for now. You need to create a lot of silent salespeople, lots of signage in the store, lots of wayfinding signage, lots of pricing information, lots of scannable QR codes, lots of imagery, lots of links. Give them every bit of help they need to shop in your store. Let's talk about your team. Most of you have dispatched all of your team, and now it's time to decide who returns, when do they return, and in some cases, who doesn't return. So how do we decide who comes back into your store, who comes back into the fold? Well, it's going to be those people that are in support of what you're doing. There are a lot of people that are pushing back and saying, hey, I don't want to come to work. I'm not safe. I don't feel comfortable coming back. So be it. Leave them at home where they belong. For those people that do feel safe, get them back in the store and find out, make sure, ensure they are ready. They are retrained, refreshed, and ready to contribute. You know, when I say to someone, let's go through some retraining, and I see that body language, that face that closes up, they may not be the right person to bring back. You know, retraining is something that we have to do. If you spent, 2 weeks running and took a few days off running, you got to retrain your body. If you run 21 days and create that great jogging habit, you've broken through a barrier and you've created this habit. The minute that you stop, that habit is broken, and you know how hard it is to get back into that habit. I'm talking about retraining good habits. I'm talking about refreshing your team. What does refreshing look like? What does that refreshing of your staff look like? Your guidelines, your rules, your regulations, the acknowledgement that they're there to contribute. What does their contribution look like, and are they prepared to contribute? Your team needs to know I mean this individually, your rules of engagement. How close will you get? How far will you distance? What things will you say? What things won't you say? How do you communicate with your customer in the store? Recognize that your team may need to be paid more. Your team may need to be paid more to come back to work than they were paid when they left. But remember this, you're going to have less people. I promise you, I'm making a promise I can't keep, but I'm willing to bet that you are not going to have a flurry of traffic through your front door in the first 2 weeks of reopening. I'm willing to bet that you probably need a quarter or less of the staff you originally had. And I promise you, if you pay that quarter or whatever that reduced number of staff looks like a little bit more money, you're probably going to get a little bit more out of them. That old saying, you get what you pay for, really will start to ring true in looking at your key staff. The last thing I want to say about your team is that they have to believe in your why. They have to understand it. They have to know your why, and they must believe in it. If they don't believe in your why, you're probably not going to get a lot of traction with that person. Okay, let's talk about your point of sale system. Let me throw on my, POS owner hat right now. Let's look at what do we need to do right now to get ready to open. Well, the first thing you need to do is power up all of your systems and equipment ahead of reopening your doors. We need to perform our login and our password checks. We have athletes or we have team members coming back into the business that have been away for an extended period of time. Do they remember their password? Do they know it? Have they shared it? What has happened? Let's reset everyone's password. Let's check our logins and make sure everything works. Let's do a test print of a receipt. Let's do a test receipt. Let's send an email receipt. Let's test our reporting. And my gosh, call your POS provider. If it's Canadian Retail Solutions, if my company is your point of sale provider, get on the phone right now and call them. We have a checklist standing by. It will take my guys 15 minutes to walk through that checklist with you to give you the in-depth guidance on how to restart your POS system in the store if it has in fact been down. Let's talk about inventory. So now is a great time. You've been really lackadaisical in maintaining a solid inventory count. I know that. I have a little bit of insight into your inventory system today. I know that you have been a little bit lax in accounting for that inventory that we've pulled off of floor 1 or floor 2 and packed and bagged and tagged and sent to our customers. Now is the best time to take a physical inventory. Let's make our adjustments. Let's be ready to go ahead of reopening our stores. Your goods, your inventory is old. We know that. But I'm going to say this to you. you've heard me talk about freshness for in some cases, some of you for several years. You've heard me talk about the power of fresh inventory. Well, I'm going to tell you this time, and this time only, freshness is not as important. Every bit of inventory you have is old. But that does not mean you need to take any blanket markdowns. Blanket markdowns erode cash. We need to grade our inventory, A, B, C. A inventory. What's A inventory in my mind? That is good carryover potential inventory. Inventory that has the ability to carry over from season to season. Basics, core items that carry over from season to season that, yes, can become brown bananas, but never really die on the vine. Our B inventory is that inventory that probably is seasonal, that is going to need some kind of a markdown to clear it out. And so you're going to figure out, what do I need to price this inventory at? You're going through your entire store and everything gets an ABC. Anything that's a B gets some kind of a dollar discount. Stop using, you've heard me say this before, stop using percentage, use some kind of a dollar discount. And then C, that C inventory, that bang my forehead, what the frick was I thinking bringing that in? There's no way that's going to sell. I'm lucky to get 10 cents on the dollar. Mark it that way and get out of that inventory. It is dog inventory and its job is to get gone. And then the last thing I'm going to say is make sure that your top performers are on reorder, that your best sellers are on reorder now. You're going to sell through them very quickly in this process. So what's your merchandise strategy or your merchandise checklist need to look like? Well, I want your merchandise strategy to be thinned out. We've got to look at scarcity. We've got to believe in scarcity. Yes, we don't want her thumbing through all of our hangers. We want to, try to limit the amount of exposure our goods get. But we do want to maintain this mantra of thin inventory, lean inventory. You're going to hear this said over and over and over again. Right now, turn is the most important metric. You've got to turn your inventory back into cash. Start by pairing items, adding complementary items. All of these functions in your merchandise strategy are critical, more critical now than they've ever been. We've got to turn through inventory. If you have any seasonal inventory left in your store, i.e. winter goods left in your store, they must be marked down to go. Don't use this strategy of bagging and tagging and saving them for fall only to mark them down then. A couple of weeks ago, I had kind of thought, maybe we'll hold on to some of those jackets and we'll just bring them out in September, October on markdown. But I don't know what September, October is going to look like. I'm not so sure you're going to be selling winter goods regardless of the price. But my deal is seasonal goods have to go. So we've got to figure out a strategy. And every store needs to think about this individually. And so now I'm making this broad statement, seasonal, goods have to go. I think my true belief is every store needs to be looked at individually. Each category should be looked at individually. And you can reach out to me. You can shoot me a text and say, hey, can we have a 10-minute conversation? And let's just talk generally about your specifics and create the best plan for you going forward. And then the last thing in your merchandise strategy is sign, everywhere a sign. The more signs you have, the more wayfinding, the more informational signs you have, probably the better in your merchandise strategy. One thing I'm going to say that maybe isn't on the screen that probably should have been, get your steamers out on the floor, have them plugged in and ready. If somebody comes out of the change room, go through the effort of steaming clothes. Have a rolling rack outside your change room doors. P.S. I don't give a crap about the guidelines that they're giving you, telling you about your change rooms. You need to use your change rooms. We just need to practice good hygiene. We need to practice cleaning them. And steaming goods when they come out of the change room is a sanitation process that you should look at practicing in your store. Let's talk about vendors. What are my vendors? So I go through this process, and some of you've heard me say this before. I ABC every single vendor in my store, I have those A vendors. A vendors are really my partners. They're vendors that define my store and my assortment. Without them, I would be a different kind of store. When I say an A vendor, my friend Bob Zeckel shared a fabulous vendor scorecard with me, and he would love nothing more than me to share it with everybody else. So if you don't have a vendor scorecard today, shoot me a text or an email, and I'll put a copy of Bob's vendor scorecard in your hands. He did a fabulous job creating it. But essentially, an A vendor is someone that you have good sell-through with. You maintain healthy margins. You maintain healthy relationship, two-way conversation. You have scalable terms based on the season. You move from prepaid goods on discount through 90-day terms depending on that season. And those vendors offer co-op dollars and markdown dollars. I mean, they are true partners. They define who your store is. They are your A vendors. Your B vendors are those ones that complement your store. They don't define your store. They on Bob's, scorecard are probably, in the middle of the road in scoring out of 4 or 5. They sometimes call, they sometimes have a markdown plan, they sometimes give you extended terms. They're sometimes viewed as a good partner. They complement you, they don't define you. And then you have your C vendors. Your C vendors are the ones that you need to say goodbye to. Goodbye, good riddance, ta-ta, ciao, see you later. They are the vendors that refuse to work with you. They spend all of their time working against you. The only engagement you have with them is at the time to place an order. Get rid of them. They're terrible partners. Sorry, that might have been a bit bulldogish. Reset your expectations and realign your goals with each vendor. Reset what your expectations are for the next 90 to 120 days with your vendors. Realign your goal with that vendor. Set your turn and your margin and your sell-through goal. Realign, or your metric, your expectation, and realign that goal together with your vendor. They are your partners. And of course, you need to be on the lookout right now. Be on the lookout for new vendors. Vendors are going to be much like retailers right now. They're going to be sensitive to financial performance. Sensitive. They're going to be, they're going to be tough. This is a tough uphill battle for vendors the same way it is for retailers. So you need to be on the lookout for those strong vendors, those ones that are prepared, willing and prepared to form great partnerships with you. Partnerships. Let's transition into talking about a little bit of cash flow. So it is imperative. It's critical. I don't know how to say how important it is. It's critical that you need to work from a live cash flow sheet, a 4 to 12 week cash flow sheet. Today, we started at CRS, we started with a 12-week workflow sheet, that's carrying us all the way to July 1st. We know exactly where our cash will be on July 1st. And we're not doing this from a place of generating a bunch of business. We're doing this at a place from managing cash on a weekly basis. I know how deep the hole is on July 1st, on May 4th or May 5th, whatever today is. I know how deep that hole is that I need to climb out of. And every revenue opportunity that I can add back in closes or shallows up that hole. So I'm working from this dynamic cash flow sheet. And Candace, our controller, lots of you know Candace. Candace, our controller, every week we update that sheet. We close out the history. We know what deposits and or debits and credits hit the bank. We know what's coming in the next week, and we reforecast our cash flow. And we distribute or disperse cash weekly from the bank. We're not sending out PDs or post-dated checks, or we're not making commitments we can't live up to. We're saying, hey, I've got $4,000 in the bank, and this is how I'm going to pay it. And I pay it by prioritizing my payables. I have 3 kinds of payables. I have those payables that keep my lights on, payroll. I have those payables that keep the front door ringing, vendors. And then I have those payables that are suspect, that are easy to postpone. So I have my ABC payables. A, got to get paid. They are essential. I have to pay them. They're B's. If I get a little extra cash, I'm going to pay them. And C's, not paying them till September. A, essential. B, paying when I have cash. And C, not even looking at until September. Prioritize your payables. Focus all your energy on generating cash in your store today ahead of gross margin. Focus on cash generation, not margin generation. And split every single dollar into three parts. A lot of you have heard me say this before. Every single dollar gets split into three parts. 5 to 10 cents goes into savings. 45 to 50 cents goes to operations, expenses. 40 to 45 cents goes back into the vendor pool to drive new inventory. In this next 12 weeks, none of my conversation revolves around debt repayment. If debt has to be repaid, if there's some level of debt that you have not deferred, let's talk about how we allocate those dollars out of the 90 cents or 90 to 95 cents that we allocate to operating the business, always protecting that 5 to 10% for a rainy day. Let's talk about those resources as we kind of close up here. There are 4 or 5 really great resources. My most favorite resource, you guys know this, I am the biggest fan of Management One and some of the work that they do and have done in the last 8 weeks. They've created a fabulous retail recovery playbook. I'll preface this with saying, some of the contents are a bit Americanized, and we love that about them. They are an American organization that we're partnered with. There is some Canadian content that I've added in for you, in that retail recovery playbook. I'm going to send it out when this recorded webinar gets to your inbox. I'll send you a link to that Management One Recovery playbook. It's about 19 or 20 pages of really good content that you can draw from. The other resource that you need to be aware of is the CDC. You want to know what the CDC is saying in prevention and protection. You want to know what your municipal or provincial playbook looks like. I saw Toronto's playbook this morning. Looks pretty solid. There's some good guidelines in there. You want to look at your municipal or provincial playbook. You want to look to your city's COVID-19 recovery task force. These are great sources of information. You heard me say at the start of this webinar, stay away from mass media. It's all bullshit. Don't listen to the mass media. Don't let the mass media dictate how and what you're going to do business or how you're going to carry on business. Focus on groups that are relevant to you. Management One, Retail Council of Canada. There's some great Facebook groups out there. The Boutique Hub shares fabulous information. Bob Negan from Whiz Bang Retail Training shares some great information. The Bulldog has always got something to say. You can text or email me at any time if you need any help with anything. I've got my hand up. So let's just talk quickly about tomorrow. What does tomorrow look like? We have no idea what tomorrow looks like. We're going to change our strategy to buy now, wear now, buy now, use now. We are not pre-buying. We don't know what tomorrow looks like. Tomorrow, you need to contact every single vendor in your business and get a status update. We need to know what the PO status is for our orders going forward, June 1st through November 1st. We need to create and follow a dynamic plan. Dwight Eisenhower said, in the preparation of battle, plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. We need to be planning our battle. We need to have a dynamic plan in place so that we know how to deal with whatever gets thrown at us. And lastly, if you need anything, I'm going to say it again, if you need anything, please reach out. You can get me, Dan at thewealthyretailer.com. You can text or phone me, 587-784-3404. And of course, you can visit thewealthyretailer.com. There's lots of there's lots of content there. We'd love to connect with you over there. Of course, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and every other place. As usual, I have been the proverbial windbag and gone 4 minutes over our time. So there's about 14 questions, it looks like, in the chat. I will go ahead and answer those questions inside the email that I send you for this follow-up. If I miss anything, if you don't hear an answer on a question you had, if you've sent something to my text, I don't see anything, or if I get anything in the email, I promise I will answer your questions in one form or another. Hey guys, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of May as we kind of move towards whatever this new retail normal looks like. Happy retailing all.